far from the front lines. You're a tireless advocate, and you never give less than 100% for the educators who rely on you and the AFT. So I couldn't wait one more day to have this meeting because I have never felt prouder of our profession. In this pandemic, educators have shown heroic commitment to their students. You know, we've used all of our creativity to make classrooms experiences, whether in personal or virtual, the best that they can be. And I've been so inspired by so many of you who have gone above and beyond to meet your students where they are in this past year. Teaching late nights because your students don't have access to computers until maybe, you know, somebody in their family who's finished using the computer can give it to them. Driving hotspots to neighborhoods without Wi-Fi. Taking tearful calls from parents who felt like they just could not juggle it all. Supporting parents, distributing food, doing everything that you can to support students' mental health. And educators, you've done it all while taking care of your own families and facing your own challenges. So on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you. You have been so strong. And now it's time for us to be strong for you. You know, I know how hard it is. I am teaching hybrid this semester myself. And I have to tell you, you know, the one thing I love about educators is that we all, I think, help one another. And so I had to take the hybrid training, and actually on Tuesday morning, before we got on the plane to come to Washington, I was actually teaching my class. And I had the help of my colleagues where I teach who said, hey, Jill, try it this way, or try it that way, or do this or do that. And that's what I love about our profession. We always help one another. And now, you know, I couldn't wait to get to the White House because one of the things, you know, I promised you is that we would work together. And let me just tell you, I mean, this is day one. And I don't know whether you listened to the news last week and today, but we've already started. You know, last week, Joe, the president-elect, called on Congress to provide our schools with historic support and funding. And his plan provides resources so that we can meet the goal of safely reopening a majority of our K-8 schools in the first 100 days of this administration. And that means that access to PPE, hiring more counselors, nurses, and custodial staff, reducing class sizes, we all want that, and tackling the digital divide so that our students can continue learning wherever they are. And he's going to work to address racial and economic inequities. Gosh, we've seen that so much. And give students what they need to succeed. We're also going to give you the job support you need right now, scaling up COVID testing at schools, and promoting access to vaccines for educators, and providing funding to state and local governments so that you can keep your job. Because your safety and well-being are critical to the success of our students. And then today, our first working day, Joe, I mean, it's funny to call him President Biden, Joe signed an executive order to direct the Department of Education and the Department of Health and Human Services to work together on safely reopening child care programs in schools. And they're going to do that by following the science. They'll provide guidance and best practices, collect and share data, Engage with educators, all of you, and your unions. And today, Joe also released a national strategy for our country's COVID-19 response. And safely reopening schools is critical to that plan. Haven't we been all waiting so long for this? You know, we know this won't be easy, but we have to do two things right now. Make sure that the health and safety of educators are protected, as well as the families they serve, and give our students the educational support they need in the schools they love. That's our goal. And with dedicated educators like all of you, I know we're going to get there. So I want to thank you again for being with us today, for all the work that you have done during this pandemic, and all the work that we're going to continue to do together. And now I'm going to pass it over to Becky. Becky?
Oh my, it is so incredibly surreal to be joining you here. Oh my, I am the great-granddaughter of an enslaved American, enslaved in Bedford, Virginia, not far from here. And as I think about that, Dr. Jill Biden, I cannot begin to thank you enough for inviting both Randy and I into the People's House, built by enslaved people on the land of America's first people, the Nacotchtank here in the D.C. area. It is our honor to join you here. I can tell you that as I thought about this week being the week that, you know, your husband did tell me to call him Joe on the campaign trail, but I can tell you we worked too hard to call him President Biden, so I will be calling him that. As I listened to President Biden's speech yesterday, I was struck by the fact that he was delivering his address on the same week that we were commemorating Dr. Martin Luther King. And I thought how perfect and how poignant, because the words that I heard him say really reflected Dr. King's reminder that we are caught in that inescapable network of mutuality, that we are tied to that single garment of destiny. That's what President Biden was talking about, that whatever affects one of us affects all of us. And so as I listened to his words and I imagined what Dr. King described as that beloved community where we would not tolerate poverty or homelessness, where we would not tolerate discrimination or racism. As I looked into the eyes of our 46th president, I knew that our educators all over the country were first crying like I was, but then they were smiling because they knew they had in the White House a partner. And he didn't come by himself, right? We have Vice President Kamala Harris. I can hardly say these words without smiling. And we have Dr. Jill Biden, an educator who's still teaching, and an NEA member, as she said. We know that they will partner with us to reclaim public education as a common good, as the foundation of this democracy, and then transform it into something it was never designed to be. And that is a racially and socially just and equitable system that prepares every student, everyone, to succeed in a diverse and interdependent world, to live into their brilliance. So, Dr. Jill, I cannot tell you how excited we are to partner with you and all of the cabinet members that President Biden has gathered around him to partner with all of us, because he's already proven to us, just like you said, his first day, he signed executive orders that actually proved that he was taking serious the racial injustice in this country, that actually proved that he was taking serious the coronavirus that has killed over 400,000 Americans, that he was taking seriously the need to unite this country in a powerful way. Because here's the thing, Dr. Jill, I know you know this. Our children, our babies, are depending on us to be worthy of them. So on behalf of the 3 million members, your 3 million of your closest friends, Dr. Jill, I just need to say thank you. Thank you for your courage and conviction. Thank you for your dedication to your profession and to the students of this country. Thank you for living up to the promise and the ideals of America. It gives me such great pleasure to introduce my friend, my colleague, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, a history teacher, I believe, just like my dad, Miss Randi Weingarten.
Thank you, Becky, and thank you, Becky, and thank you, Dr. B. And I too will be calling the President Biden, and I too will be calling the Vice President Harris. And I love using Dr. Biden before your name. And what it does, and it's interesting to have had that tussle with the Wall Street Journal, because in that moment, teachers all across America said, Dr. Biden is a doctor. She earned that doctorate. That doctorate was something that she earned in education. And that shows our respect for her. And frankly, today shows your and your husband and Vice President Harris's respect for the educators in America. What you just said to the educators today, the compassion, the grace, the thanks. Our profession is one, and we at the AFT represent nurses and teachers, bus drivers. We represent the helping professions. They want respect. They want dignity. But even when they don't get that, they are going to do everything in their power to help care for a nation, engage a nation, educate a nation. And that is what we heard from President Biden yesterday. And that is what we heard from that amazing poet, Amanda Gorman, yesterday. And that is who the teachers of the country are. Look, they always have hope. That's part of our DNA. That's part of our job. But what we have seen in this campaign and in the weeks since you and Joe Biden have been announced as president, elected as president by millions of people and the Electoral College, you have made it clear to educators that it's not just hope, but help is on the way. And not just words, but actions. You're totally right. You're so right about who teachers are in this country, just like who nurses are in this country. They turned on a dime. They have used their kitchens have become their classrooms. Their cars have become internet hotspots. They have figured out how to use the internet in ways no one ever imagined. They've engaged kids. But we need help. We need the funding that is part of the Rescue Act that now President Biden announced last week and that we need the Congress to do. We need that safety guidance and those plans that we've been begging for, Becky and I, for months, to try to reopen in-school learning safely, particularly for the kids who need it most. Kids, 30 million of whom used to get their meals at school, 16 million of whom still don't have connectivity. These are real people's problems, and that's what you talk about all the time, Dr. B. And that's what your husband said yesterday and today with the executive orders to tackle COVID and to reopen schools safely, and by picking Dr. Miguel Cardona as Secretary of Education. Today is a moment where we feel respected, and our members feel respected, and educators all around the country feel respected. But we know that we have more to give. And working with an educator in the White House, someone who walks in our shoes, someone who knows the challenges and the aspirations of children and of the educators in the country. Frankly, that is more than I could ever have imagined before this moment. In the last few days, we've gone from insurrection to inauguration. We've gone from chaos to community. As Martin Luther King said in his last book, will we have chaos or will we have community? What you've done for our members, Dr. B, for educators throughout the country, is that you have said to them, this is community. This is us working together. This is us together finding a way to ensure that every single child has the power to not only dream his or her or their dreams, but to achieve them, regardless of demography or geography. And so as this history teacher, whose grandparents came from the Ukraine, who sees the Statue of Liberty as a statue of openness and possibility of our country, we pledge to work with you each and every day to lift up our country, to lift up our schools, for educators to have the partner that we now have in President Biden, in Vice President Harris, and in Dr. Jill Biden. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Randy. You know, over and over, I've made you a promise that when Joe was elected president, that you will always have a seat at the table. And I meant it. Our schools, our students, our communities, you know, we're all facing so many challenges right now. And I know that you are stretched thinner than most. But educators, this is our moment, because we know how to turn chaos into something beautiful. We do it every day in our classrooms. We know how to learn the lessons of our past and grow into something new. We never stop learning and growing. We know how to be a light in the darkness. And Joe is going to be a champion for you, because he knows that's the best way to serve our students. Together, we are going to transform our nation's education system. And when we do that, we will change the course of our future forever. And if you ever wonder if it's possible, just remember that the First Lady of the United States is one of your own. So I want to end by saying thank you for all that you do. In the day-to-day, we don't always recognize how much this work matters, but it does. Right now, someone out there is a better thinker because of you. Someone is standing a little taller because you help them find the confidence that they need. Someone is working a little harder because you push them to try. And someone is kinder because you showed them what it meant. Someone is braver because you helped them find their courage. Student by student, you are changing the world. Thank you for that work. And thank you for all that you will help us do to build a better future for all students. Thank you.